But June seems convinced that for him it will be an entirely different story. With renewed purpose, he begins to annihilate the monsters. Meanwhile, as manager Seungjai stands guard at the dungeon's entrance, he senses another presence nearby. He's certain he received no report about anyone else arriving. His hand immediately goes to the hilt of his sword just as a crimson car speeds towards him. As the driver parks, a woman who recognizes him as her senior remarks that it was quite a challenge to track him down. When Sanjay realizes it's an old acquaintance from the Magic Academy, a woman named Yeonju, he stows away his sword and asks what brings her here and how her guild is doing. She explains that she's also on a job right now and that she figured she might run into him while handling some business for her guild, but she had already checked at the Yanhwa Guild and he was nowhere to be found. However, manager Sunj internally scoffs at her story, especially since Yeonju hasn't reached out to him even a single time since they graduated from the Magic Academy. He eventually offers a polite, "It's nice to see you after so long," but he can't help but think she isn't the type to travel to a remote place like this just for a friendly reunion. As she steps closer, Yeonju probes, asking her senior if he's managing this dungeon, but he curtly informs her that it's not something an outsider should be concerned with. Undeterred, she continues, pointing out that managing dungeons isn't typically part of his duties, and pointedly asks if he was demoted. When met with silence, she presses on, mentioning she was curious to know if the rumor about Guildmaster Shang's illness holds any truth. Manager Sunji's expression turns grim as he flatly tells her that it's obviously just a baseless rumor. When he demands to know where she heard such a thing, she comments that there are plenty of listening ears everywhere and that their curator guild hides its extensive network of informants very well. Intrigued, Manager Sunj wonders if she's implying that they have spies embedded within their guild. So, he thanks her for the information with a cold edge to his voice, assuring her he will deal with it. Growing impatient, he asks if that's everything, mentioning he needs to get back to start the cleanup. She then pivots, asking if he's familiar with a young man named Jay Hyun, a question that clearly startles Manager Sunjae. Yeonju explains that this particular individual has been visiting the Yanhwa Guild to meet with Guildmaster Yujin rather frequently. She's curious about the reason, but a baffled Manager Sunjae retorts that it's hardly a matter for an outsider to pry into. With a frustrated sigh, Yeonju turns to leave, remarking as she goes that she didn't really expect a straight answer from him. She knows how masterfully he hides information behind that inflexible demeanor, but she explains she came all this way because she has to at least put on a show of earning her salary at the guild. With that, she slips into her car and speeds away. Meanwhile, deep within the dungeon, our protagonist sits enthroned upon a massive pile of monster corpses he's just created. Moments later, the dungeon boss, Nightshade, materializes and Jay Hyun greets the creature with a casual, "It's been a while." Nightshade's body glows with an eerie bright red aura before it lunges forward, forcing our hero to leap into the air, knocking his holy arrows. While suspended in midair, he unleashes a volley straight into the beast's eyes and mouth, momentarily destabilizing it. He lands gracefully back on the ground, but the monster appears completely unfazed, slowly removing a hand from its face to reveal its glowing, sinister red eyes. It immediately unleashes several powerful energy blasts directly at Jay Hyun. Our hero spots them instantly, his mind rapidly calculating the precise footwork needed to evade the incoming barrage. He masterfully sidesteps the assault, but as he closes the distance, the monster unleashes another devastating onslaught, which he narrowly dodges again. With a smirk, Jay Hyun taunts the beast, asking if it's getting flustered now that things aren't going according to its plan. He then activates his lightning chain skill, whipping the crackling chains toward Nightshade, which manages to swat the anchor aside. However, Jay Hyun skillfully redirects the anchor mid-flight, successfully wrapping the chains tightly around the monster's midsection. Judging by the monster's violent thrashing, he realizes this alone won't be enough to subdue it. So, he follows up by raining down a shower of holy arrows, aiming directly for its vulnerable eyes once more. The attack is brutally effective, causing dark blood to gush from the creature's face, yet Nightshade refuses to fall. It continues to thrash wildly until it finally shatters the lightning chains binding it. Immediately, a system alert warns Jay Hyun. The boss has entered a berserk state, its strength has surged by 1.5 times, and its dexterity has increased to match decidedly bad news for Jay Hyun. As if that weren't dire enough, he's then informed that a curse called the Stigma of Death has been placed upon him. This curse carries the penalty of sudden death if it isn't removed within a mere 10 minutes. The only way to remove it is by defeating Nightshade, leaving our hero to wonder what this unheard of sudden death penalty even is. Curiously, the system then announces that his absolute calculation skill, a technique so advanced it seems to come from a legendary Magic Academy has been forcefully activated. Completely bewildered, Jay Hyun immediately suspects Yell is behind this and calls out to her. He demands to know how she could interfere in such a direct way, but his only reply is the system displaying the 10-minute countdown. 30 seconds have already ticked away. With the death stigma burning on him, Jay Hyun charges toward the berserk monster. But he's stunned as Nightshade suddenly turns to flee. Jay Hyun wastes no time, launching a holy arrow that blasts straight into the monster's face. The attack punches a gaping hole through its head before it can get away, as the relentless timer ticks down to 8 minutes and 32 seconds. Despite the wound, a sinister smile spreads across Nightshade's face, revealing the dark confidence it hides. It knows victory is certain if it just stalls for time. Realizing this, Jay Hyun prepares to unleash a wide-area skill, an inescapable attack, but just as he's about to cast, Nightshade locks eyes with him, its mesmerizing gaze shattering his concentration and disrupting the spell. A system notification flashes, informing him that he has failed to resist its mental assault, succumbing to a temporary fear debuff that cripples his abilities. While he's still reeling from the shock, Nightshade seizes the opportunity and lands a devastating blow. The moment the attack connects, the system announces the fear debuff has vanished. The impact is brutal, and Jay Hyun coughs up a spray of blood. Yet, through sheer willpower, he plants his feet firmly, refusing to be knocked down. He stands his ground. The clock now shows a harrowing 7 minutes and 11 seconds remaining until the penalty. Jay Hyun braces himself, expecting the monster to use that same paralyzing gaze again. When it doesn't, he speculates that perhaps such a powerful spell can't be used continuously. Still, Jay Hyun can't be certain, and he's worried that the monster will surely interfere again if it sees him attempting to cast Light's Judgment. A failed cast would drain his mana and leave him defenseless, a critical lesson from his Magic Academy days. He needs a new strategy, recalling the arrow he landed earlier and realizing the monster's line of sight is now severely impaired. An idea sparks. He'll activate his Wind Boost skill to completely eliminate what's left of the monster's vision. He unleashes a powerful gust, kicking up a blinding cloud of debris. As the smoke screen clears, our hero is revealed. Clutching a sphere of brilliant light magic, his plan unfolding perfectly. He smirks, taunting the creature for assuming he would just charge in. Blindly like a fool, calling it naive as he unleashes his flash bomb skill. The orb detonates in an instant, releasing a blinding explosion of pure light that engulfs the entire battlefield, launching crackling chains of lightning directly at Nightshade. In the heart of the fiery blast, our hero breathes a sigh of relief, believing he's finally taken down the wretched beast. Consumed by the searing light, it lets out an agonizing shriek, but then, from out of nowhere, he spots the undead minions he fought earlier, now closing in from behind. Without hesitation, he activates his sacrifice skill, and the system announces a transformation. Sacrifice has now become an offensive ability, empowering him to finally use Light's Judgment. With a tense 3 minutes and 46 seconds left on the clock, Jay Hyun unleashes a torrent of divine light from the heavens, bombarding the entire area. Amidst the chaotic onslaught, the timer plummets, until a mere 10 seconds remain. The countdown continues to 6 seconds as Jay Hyun locks his eyes on Nightshade's disintegrating form. And a sense of triumph washes over him. He's done it. Just as the timer hits 3 seconds, a system message declares that he has successfully defeated the dungeon boss, earning the prestigious title, one who has overcome the first trial. Meanwhile, Hel, who had been observing the entire battle, remarks that there was clearly a profound reason why Jay Hyun was chosen. She extends her hand in a gesture of invitation, beckoning the young hero to her temple. With the dungeon boss vanquished, the stigma of death finally vanishes. Jay Hyun is rewarded with a flood of experience points, a rare crafting item called Nightshade's Core, and a piece of powerful equipment known as the Shadow Armor. The system also confirms he has gained 3 whole levels and secured his new epic title as the one who has conquered the initial ordeal. Upon verifying his qualifications, the system notifies him that Hel herself is summoning him to her sacred temple. In the blink of an eye, he finds himself teleported before a colossal entrance leading into Hel's domain. Just as he takes in the sight, a monstrous beast erupts from the shadows, charging straight at him. Our hero recoils in terror, but Hel's voice rings out, addressing the creature as Gymer and instructing it to escort their guest inside. Jay Hyun cautiously follows Gymer into the temple's depths, and he calls out to the goddess. Hel admits that she hadn't anticipated his success, offering her congratulations for surmounting the trial she had set, dubbing him the child born with the adversary's fate. Utterly bewildered, our protagonist questions why she bestowed the Norner's system upon him and forced him through such a grueling test. Yet, Hel merely offers a cryptic smile as she observes him, stating simply that he must grow into his role as the adversary. Still lost, Jay Hyun presses for an answer, asking why he was the specific one chosen for this path. She elaborates that it's because this destiny was woven into his very being from the moment of his birth. It seems he is fated to oppose the great Aesir and to ultimately become the slayer of the All-Father himself, Odin. She clarifies that this is the future Loki and the others are counting on him to create. When Jay Hyun insists he doesn't comprehend, Hel dismisses his confusion, telling him there's no need, as they held little hope for this outcome in the first place. As Jay Hyun's frustration boils over at her evasive answers, she gently places a finger on his lips, murmuring that he must feel terribly wronged, unable to grasp why his life should be manipulated by the whims of gods. Drawing closer, as if to steal a kiss, she whispers a reminder that this grand scheme involves more than just the gods who are opposed to the Aesir. Mid-sentence, she shoves him backward into a swirling portal, informing him that the world itself is hurtling toward its twilight, a fate Odin desires to control completely. To prevent this cataclysm, the power of the prophesied adversary is essential. As our hero plummets through the void, he shouts that she can't just send him away when he still has so many unanswered questions. But Hel's only reply is a command to grow stronger, for she eagerly awaits the day they meet once more. After Jay Hyun vanishes, Hel turns her attention to a figure lurking nearby, asking how long he intends to keep watching from where he hides, as she has no memory of extending an invitation. Shortly after, Jay Hyun crashes to the ground back in the real world, utterly vexed at having received no real answers, nothing that any magic academy could ever teach. As he stews in frustration, the system announces that he has been granted Hell's Gift, a passive skill named Hell's Blessing, which completely nullifies all abnormal status effects inflicted upon him. Meanwhile, the old man who was spying on Hell finally reveals himself, asking forgiveness for his discourtesy, claiming he simply couldn't resist observing when he heard Hell was meeting the boy. He then asks for her impression after finally meeting the young man in person. She replies that she is uncertain, as it is far too early to make a judgment, especially since the adversary has merely taken his first fledgling step. However, she does admit that his growth as the adversary was far greater than she had ever anticipated. He triumphed despite the handicap she imposed and stood before her in the end, which is a most fortunate miscalculation on her part. The old man expresses his relief that the boy is performing so well. Finally, Hell inquires what he truly desires, sensing he has more to say, and addresses him by his true name, Mimir, the famed figure from Norse mythology. Mimir, however, feigns confusion, claiming he has no idea what she's talking about. But the goddess immediately accuses him of trying to play dumb until the very end. As her accusations intensify, Mimir urges her to calm down, finally conceding that it seems he can't deceive her after all. Hell presses on, stating that the adversary's left eye is, without a doubt, the very one Odin sacrificed at the Well of Wisdom. She's absolutely certain that whatever secret Mimir hides alongside Loki is significant, but Mimir pleads that while he wishes he could tell her, the time isn't right. She reluctantly agrees to wait, yet declares that she cannot simply stand by idly, and when Mimir inquires about her plans, she explains that the adversary is still far too inexperienced, as the prophecy foretells innumerable hardships that await him, and he will need a guide. Sometime later, approximately 7 days before the Mills Magic Academy admission period, Jay Hyun arrives at a store to acquire some necessary items, accompanied by a woman. She quickly notices that he doesn't seem well and asks if something is weighing on his mind, but our protagonist insists it's nothing. Trusting his word, she leads him onward to purchase the remainder of the things he'll need for his new academic life. Yet, despite his denial, his mind is consumed by how he endured so much only to be left without answers, and instead, with even more profound questions. On the bright side, he was fortunate enough to acquire the passive skill, Hell's Blessing, along with a powerful X-rank skill. In fact, our hero possesses other X-rank skills as well. One is called One Watched by the Gods, a skill that accelerates the user's growth under the God's blessing. Another is the Absolute Eye of God, which allows him to pierce through all illusions and perceive the ultimate reality. The X-rank is a classification Jay Hyun had never even heard of within the established IR system. It turns out that X is short for extraordinary, representing a tier of skill that exists completely outside the norms of the Aesir system. As he contemplates the possibility that the gods opposing the Aesir gave him these skills specifically to assassinate the great god Odin, the weight of it all crushes him once more. He's abruptly pulled from his deep thoughts when he sees the woman he's with casually spending 300 million won on a simple manalade. This item is merely an expendable, yet she paid a fortune for it, and as she pulls out a long shopping list on her phone, Jay Hyun begins to feel a sense of dread. Just hours earlier, this woman, whose name is Park Hana, had approached our hero, introducing herself as a representative from the Yanua Guild. It seems Sangwon wanted to bestow a gift upon him, since his admission to the Mills Magic Academy was just around the corner. Jay Hyun had assumed they were just coming to pick up a few elixirs and maybe an artifact or two, but this shopping spree was on an entirely different level. I thought we were just coming here to grab a few elixirs and artifacts, but this is on a completely different scale. He explains that they don't need to buy armor because he already possesses something perfectly suitable. He then reveals a piece of shadow armor equipment, a gift from Nightshade, which grants him a powerful stealth skill the moment it's equipped. Since his B-rank protective gear that completely hides his presence, he's confident they won't find anything better. He's certain that nothing they could purchase could possibly top this, especially given the invaluable stealth ability it provides. When Hannah learns his armor possesses a stealth skill, she asks if he also requires an artifact that grants a similar ability. She notes that such an item is something every raider would covet, though finding one in a place like this would be next to impossible. But Jay Hyun declines, adding that it would be incredibly difficult to acquire one unless he got lucky in a dungeon. This is especially true, he reasons, since there aren't many people who actually learn stealth skills, a fact Hana readily agrees with because the only raider who is none other than her brother. With that bombshell dropped, she turns to leave, prompting a bewildered Jay Hyun to ask what she means. She then coolly informs him that Manager Park Sunjae is, in fact, her brother. The information leaves Jay Hyun stunned as she walks away. He can't process it because Hana and Sunji are polar opposites. Then, out of nowhere, his eyes begin to glow with a brilliant light, and the Norner system alerts him that an unknown entity is resonating with his very soul. A wave of nausea washes over him, and he suddenly spots a trail of light identical to the one he saw at the treasure gate. As he dashes off to follow it, Hana calls out to him, but he just yells back that he'll only be gone for a moment. While he chases the light, his absolute Eye of God skill spontaneously activates, piercing through a cunning illusion to reveal the truth it was meant to conceal. The system then informs him that the absolute Eye of God's first low-rank ability has been unlocked, and he has acquired the skill known as detection. Detection is also an extraordinary rank skill that not only lets him appraise unidentified items but also completely nullifies an opponent's stealth or phantom skills where a foe hides in plain sight. As he stares in astonishment, the Norner system automatically activates the detection skill. In a different location, a fierce close-quarters combat match reaches its swift conclusion after a young man named An Hoyen decisively defeats his opponent. Some spectators in the crowd discuss how phenomenal Hoyen is, but they also point out that the sheer chasm in talent between him and his adversary is just too vast, which is why they're all calling him a future S-rank raider. When Hoyen exits the fighting arena, his father commends him for a job well done. However, he immediately warns his son not to get excited over what was an obvious win. With no trace of excitement in his eyes, Hoyen flatly states that he knows. His father then tells him to go prepare for the next item on their schedule and to go take a shower. While standing under the water, Hoyen contemplates how he truly despises this grueling life where his own opinions and desires are completely meaningless. The kind of raider he dreamed of becoming was nothing like this, and he wonders when everything took this turn. Back at the store, the Norner system presents our hero with an equipment item called Mistline, a growth-type artifact, which is the fabled mistletoe branch that ended the life of Odin's son, Balder. It evolves alongside its user and contains an immeasurable amount of magic that hides its true potential, allowing the wielder to acquire the passive skill Mana Perception just by equipping it. The Mana Perception skill is A-ranked, and it boosts the user's ability to detect mana to its absolute maximum limit. Jun is ecstatic, but he can't help but wonder if this is another one of the Norner system's elaborate tricks. As he continues following the ethereal light, he walks right past Hoyen. While Hoyen stands by silently, his father picks out several pieces of expensive equipment for him. When Hoyen asks if they really need to buy so much, his father insists that they will all be useful for someone destined to become an S-rank raider, a title beyond any graduate from a standard magic academy so he shouldn't be so stingy. Hoyen protests further, mentioning that spending this much will impact his mom's hospital fees for the month, but his father immediately silences him. His dad sternly insists that finances are his concern, and Hoyen's only job is to focus on training. So, as usual, Hoyen concedes to his dad. While his father continues to shop, the young man wonders what the hell he is even doing there. As he trails his father through the shop, onlookers recognize him and whisper, wondering what his celebrated combat prodigy is doing there. Hoyen, however, pays them no mind, ignoring the flashes of phones as people try to capture a photo of him. He questioned if this was the raider's life he had always dreamed of, wondering how it was any different from being a caged animal in a zoo. He remembered when he was just a boy, first awakening his powers. His mother's gentle smile and the soft pat on his head were his only comfort. In their dim, impoverished home, he dreamed of being a raider, a single ray of light that promised to change their entire world. But that light was quickly overshadowed by his father's ambition to exploit it. Now, he was no better than a machine, a mere tool mindlessly executing his father's commands. He doubted if he could even survive for 3 years at the prestigious Mills Magic Academy, feeling so utterly pathetic. As they were walking, an announcement suddenly blared through the speakers, alerting all visitors that a dungeon break had just occurred near the department store, and that monsters were now on the loose. It stated that raiders from the agency were en route, and everyone was instructed to calmly follow the guidance of the store employees. For the uninitiated, a dungeon break is what happens when a dungeon isn't conquered in time, which causes the monsters within to spill out into the real world. Staff members began gesturing frantically, trying to usher the panicked crowds to safety while maintaining a facade of calm. As Hoyen's father moved toward the evacuation route, he snapped at Hoyen, demanding to know why he was just standing there instead of following. The man reminded him of his status, a genius destined to one day hold sway over all of Korea. If he were to get injured in a trivial incident like this, it would only be a black mark against him during the Mills enrollment event. His father warned him that he had absolutely nothing to gain by getting involved, yet Hoyen remained rooted to the spot. The boy silently conceded his father's point that the agency's raiders would likely handle the monsters with ease, but in the time it would take for them to arrive, he couldn't stop thinking about what would happen to the helpless civilians who had no way to defend themselves. This was his chance. With that thought, he bolted in the opposite direction, ignoring his father's furious commands to return. For Hoyen, this was his opportunity to prove he could truly be a raider. He had to see if the person he is now, the one that hides behind his father's expectations, was anything like the hero he had once yearned to show his mother. As he sprinted, he was forced to a sudden halt when he ran smack into a pack of grotesque goblins, their expressions a mix of confusion and predatory glee. For a paralyzing moment, he could only stand there, as a cold sweat trickled down his face. His body refused to move, completely betraying the heroic image he had in his mind. The only sign of life was the terrified tremor in his pupils. As the monsters charged, the horrifying realization hit him. He couldn't move a single finger, couldn't take a single step back. He mentally screamed at his body to react, but as a goblin lunged, its blade poised to slice him open. He desperately wondered why he was frozen. He knew the danger. He had dreamed his entire life of becoming a raider. These were just low-level monsters, so why was he so utterly terrified? But just before the creature's attack could land, Jay Hyun appeared out of nowhere and stomped it into the pavement. Hoyen could only watch in stunned silence, stumbling backward onto the ground as this stranger casually asked if he was all right. Moments earlier, Jay Hyun had purchased an unusual item in the store for 50,001 won from his own pocket. Hana had called out to him in a panic, asking what was wrong and why he had suddenly bolted over to the unappraised items corner. All she could see in his hand was the worthless-looking piece of rock he'd just bought. Jay Hyun mused to himself, wondering if the object's true nature was hidden from others. But he offered no explanation, simply turning to her and speaking. "It's nothing," he dismisses, but just as he speaks, an urgent announcement crackles through the speakers, reporting a dungeon break in the immediate vicinity of the department store. Before Hana can even process the news, our hero is already in motion, shattering the massive department store window to leap outside. Plunging downwards, his eyes lock onto the swarm of goblins directly below him as he lands on the pavement, instantly unleashing a torrent of holy arrows upon the monsters, felling several of them in a heartbeat. As the onlookers watch in stunned confusion, Jay Hyun assesses the situation, realizing their numbers are far greater than he anticipated. He knows it will be difficult to handle this horde without any casualties. Unfazed, he rips through their grotesque flesh with his crackling lightning chain and another devastating onslaught of holy arrows. Bounding across the urban landscape, he spots Hone ambushed by several goblins and immediately leaps upon the vile creature that's about to finish the young man off. Landing squarely, Jay Hyun turns and asks, "You're Hoyen, right?" He hadn't expected to encounter this so-called unfortunate genius in a chaotic place like this. And Hoyen, still trembling from the near-death experience, stammers out, "Who are you?" Our protagonist offers no name, simply stating that he's going to need Hoyen's help. As Jay Hyun continues to speak, Hoyen's eyes dart past him, spotting a goblin creeping up from behind and shouting a warning. Yet Jay Hyun doesn't flinch, coolly replying, "I know." Without even turning, he activates his lightning chains, which erupt and tear through the monster's upper body like a hot knife through butter. Hoyen's eyes widen in disbelief, but Jay Hyun calmly explains that they cannot, under any circumstances, allow these monsters to reach the residential areas. When Jay Hyun pointedly asks if he intends to just sit there, Hoyen scrambles to his feet, grabbing a weapon. It was a strange feeling, but the moment he heard those words, the suffocating fear that had paralyzed him simply vanished. This, he thought, is what a true raider is, and his duty, right now, is to save people. Venturing further, they soon encounter another horde of goblins. Jay Hyun turns to Hoyen, asking if he knows a skill called Taunt, a technique that provokes all surrounding enemies. So he instructed the boy to draw the monster's attention to himself, to provoke as many of them as he possibly could. "Can you do it?" Jay Hyun asked. To that, Hoyen gave a firm nod of approval. Summoning his sword, he knew there was no more room for hesitation. He had to do whatever he could. He activated his signature skill, Taunting Roar, plunging his sword into the ground and releasing a massive shockwave of energy that forced every monster within a 50-meter radius to focus solely on him. The Taunting Roar skill instantly drew the undivided attention of the entire goblin swarm. Jay Hyun immediately realized that Taunting Roar was a much higher-tier skill than simple taunt, and he was genuinely surprised the boy could use it continuously. This raw power reminded Jay Hyun of his past life. Before he regressed, Hoyen had only ever become a B-rank raider. It was never clear if this was due to the weak mentality he just displayed or if there was some other hidden reason. Contrary to his early fame, Hoyen's career saw a swift downfall, earning him the title of the Unfortunate Genius. However, Jay Hyun knew that a weak temperament was something that could be forged and fixed, especially with proper guidance from a place like a magic academy. As Jay Hyun activated his lightning chain once more, he became certain that a talent like Hoyen, which hides such potential, was a valuable card he could play. During the fight, he proposed to Hoyen that they should end this quickly, and the boy agreed with newfound excitement. As Jay Hyun's chains tore through goblin flesh, Hoyen moved in to slice them to pieces. Moments later, the ground was littered with goblin corpses, and when the first official raider arrived on the scene, he could only stare in awe, wondering what on earth had transpired here. The two boys watched him expressionlessly as the man introduced himself as Park Jong-hun from the raider agency, who asked the two young men if this goblin horde was truly their handiwork. With a glance at Jay Hyun, Hoyen confirms that it was, and Raider Kyung-hoon immediately recognizes him as the renowned and Hoyen. Kyung-hoon recalls hearing many call him a genius, yet he appears to be barely old enough for high school. The other young man standing beside Hoyen seems to be of a similar age, making it utterly unbelievable that they eliminated this many monsters all by themselves. Utterly baffled, Kyung-hun admits he has no idea how to report such an incredible feat to his superiors. However, Jay Hyun cuts in, stating that this was precisely what he wanted to discuss with him. He asked Kyung-hun to report that the agency handled the situation, reasoning that no one would believe two teenagers were responsible for clearing out all these goblins anyway. Taken aback, Kyung-hun protests that this is a clear violation of the law, but our protagonist counters that it's only illegal if there were witnesses to what actually transpired. Kyung-hoon explains that as a government organization, he can't just manipulate reports as he pleases, but he does assure them he will keep things quiet if they wish to avoid drawing any attention. He then adds that the boys will of course receive the full reward for hunting the monsters. Jay Hyun, however, dismisses the offer, proposing instead that the entire reward be given to Hoyen and that the fact he was even here be kept a complete secret, explaining that he's already sponsored by Manhwa. He isn't lacking for money, and more importantly, it's better not to attract unnecessary attention with the Mila's **** Magic Academy *** enrollment just around the corner. Besides, he sees this as a perfect way to place Hyun in his debt, a connection that could prove far more valuable in the long run. After a brief silence, Kyun-hun asks if that is all. But just as June is about to depart, Hyun calls out, demanding to know what he meant, since Jay Hyun was the one who did everything. Our hero pauses and cryptically tells him that he has his own circumstances to consider. The truth is, he has no intention of catching the eye of his father. Not this close to the Milla's *** Magic Academy *** enrollment. Before he regressed, he never paid it any mind since his combat aptitude was laughably low, but now he must be meticulous. His father remains completely unaware that he has shifted his focus to magic, and he can't predict what sort of problems will arise if the man discovers his recent activities. For now, he knows he needs to lie low, because revenge is a dish best served quietly and from the shadows. He must cultivate the power that *** hides *** within, far from that man's sight, and wait for the opportune moment before he finally tears out his throat. Meanwhile, Hyun is caught in a whirlwind of indecision. He knows he couldn't have accomplished this on his own. It feels fundamentally wrong to take all the credit for another's work. But with this money, he might be able to alleviate his mother's illness, even if only for a short while. He always wanted to become a raider who could stand tall without shame. Yet, if his pride causes him to miss this chance and his mother were to pass away, he's not sure he would be able to go on. Jay Hyun watches him, discerning that Hyun's conflict isn't merely about pride, and he wonders if there's another way to help him make the right choice. June urges him to think carefully, reminding him that his actions were unequivocally worth that reward. He points out that if Hyun hadn't acted when he did, a life would have been lost. Hearing this, Hyun agrees that he's right, especially because his dream would become utterly meaningless if he were to hesitate now and lose his mother. With newfound resolve, he assures Jay Hyun he will accept. He vowed that this debt would be repaid one day. As Jay Hyun turned to depart, Hyun called out, asking for his name and contact information. Jay Hyun couldn't help but notice the formal speech, reminding Hyun that since they were the same age, there was no need for such pleasantries. However, Hyun informed him that as prospective cadets at the renowned Mills Magic Academy, they should expect to see each other frequently. On the day of the Mills Academy enrollment, Jay Hyun and Yoo Jung were just two faces in a sea of aspiring students. Meanwhile, other students pointed out Hoon, the one they called a genius warrior, speculating that he was practically a different species from the rest of them. Their eyes then shifted to the beautiful lady standing behind him, a woman whose name, it turned out, was Sioena. Our hero noticed her too. He observed that Ina was already the center of attention, which was hardly surprising for someone whose name constantly appeared on the list of most popular raiders in his past life. If he could somehow bring Sioena to his side, his strategic options would expand, but he knew there was a significant obstacle. The only issue was that she was different from the others, so there was no need to force things, especially when he already knew of other powerful people. Suddenly, Yoo Jung shattered Jay Hyun's train of thought, declaring it was disgusting to keep staring at Sioena like that. She added that it didn't matter how pretty the girl was. In response, Jay Hyun simply asked her what kind of nonsense she was spouting. Shortly after, a man stepped onto the podium and addressed the new cadets of Mills Academy, saying it was a pleasure to meet them. He introduced himself as Chairman Guja, and our protagonist's blood ran cold as he recognized the face from his past, the man who had wronged Kim Yoo-jang. In his mind, he cursed him as a bastard before turning to Yoo-jang and telling her to stay resolute. He warned that no one truly knows what this academy hides or what might happen at Mills. She, however, wondered why he was being so grim, assuring him she'd do just fine. She confidently stated that she was going to do exceptionally well. After all, upon enrolling, Kim Yoo-jang had been a genius who secured a spot in the top 3 of the magician rankings, and Jay Hyun swore to himself that this time he would not allow her to die. Chairman Guja then announced the beginning of the Mills Academy's entrance ceremony, adding with a cynical twist that a special event had been prepared. He described it as a game where seniors and freshmen would hunt each other's name tags within a demo lane. As he declared that the freshman hunt would now commence, a brilliant magic circle erupted beneath their feet, startling all the students. Yoo Jung jumped back in shock, but our hero instinctively grabbed her hand, knowing it was far too dangerous for them to be separated. In another location, manager Park Sung-jae recalled that it was Jay Hyun's entrance ceremony day, and Sionan mused about how quickly the time had come. She wished she could have sent him a message for good luck, but she realized he wouldn't be able to receive it anymore. She turned to manager Sunja, asking if the freshman hunt would last for 3 days again this time. He confirmed it would take place in the demo lane. Sionan expressed her disappointment, realizing it meant she couldn't contact Jay Hyun for 3 whole days. But Sunja reassured her, explaining that he had anticipated this and had already sent a message in her place. The guildmaster's face lit up with excitement as she asked if Jay Hyun had replied. Back in the demo lane, Jay Hyun and the others had just been transported. He turned to a still-dazed Yoo Jung who was nearby and asked if she was all right. When he glanced behind him, he saw Sioena, the raven-haired woman with hazel eyes, a natural-born genius with a magic aptitude of 92. In his past life, she was the one who shattered people's perceptions of magicians, ultimately becoming an S-rank raider who followed in Xianun's footsteps. Sanji relays a message to Xiangun. Ji-hoon has responded, telling them not to worry. Meanwhile, inside the central control room of Mills Academy, the school's top officials have gathered to oversee the proceedings of the annual freshman hunt. One of the instructors, Kim Soki, makes an observation, noting that they have an exceptionally talented batch of cadets this year, and that Hyun is so promising he's already garnering international attention. Seoki continues, mentioning that Sioena, Kim Young, and Lee Soo-yuk all scored around 90 or higher on their aptitude tests, but he also adds that the profiles for the cadets who decided to switch their career paths haven't been updated yet. The chairman, however, cuts him off. He tells Seoki not to waste his time, as there's no point in hearing about those who have already wavered from their path, since their prestigious magic academy isn't a place for the indecisive, and such whimsical individuals are not built to last here. The cadets who enroll in Mill's academy are, on average, exceptionally talented, but even among this elite group, there are always those who are clearly a cut above the rest. The chairman believes that average talents ultimately serve as mere stepping stones for true geniuses, and they don't need to provide opportunities to such middling cadets. He muses that sometimes, an awakened individual who confronts an unbeatable enemy or faces the brink of death can seize a second chance known as a reawakening. Chairman Jian's philosophy is that he must forge a single A-rank raider, even if it means sacrificing 100 C-rank raiders to do so. In his eyes, those who fail are simply those who were unable to prove their own worth. His true purpose, which he cleverly hides from the student body, is to handpick these exceptional gems for a powerful figure operating behind the scenes, and he can't afford any further delays. The freshman hunt itself unfolds within a man-made demi-lane, a pocket dimension crafted entirely from magic. Within this artificial space, it is possible to accomplish feats that would be impossible in reality, like manipulating the very flow of time or removing the fundamental restrictions of space. In this unforgiving arena, roughly 5% of cadets fail every single year. This trial is notoriously difficult, designed to let them experience firsthand the harsh limits of their own abilities. Inside the demo lane, Chairman Jian's face materializes on a colossal screen, and he begins to lay out the rules of the freshman hunt. Within the demo lane's confines, participants can only utilize skills that are C rank or lower. For every name tag they manage to steal from another person, they will earn points. When a senior captures a freshman's name tag, they are awarded a tidy 10,000 points. Conversely, when a freshman manages to take a senior's name tag, they will earn a staggering 100,000 points. Since this currency can be spent at all facilities within Mills, the more points a student has, the better. At the same time, our protagonist realizes he won't be able to use his A-rank skill, Lightning Chain, as they are restricted to using only C-rank abilities, but he notes the chairman said nothing about unique skills. After detailing the rules, the chairman explains that for everyone's safety, all skills will be diminished to just 1/10 of their usual power, so they need not worry about getting seriously injured. While listening, Jay Hyun sees these rules as a complete sham, because not only does the chairman fail to mention unique skills, but he also conveniently omits any limitations on personal stats. What the chairman truly desires is to brutally weed out the useless and handpick the truly gifted. Our hero immediately turns to Yu Jung and suggests they get a move on, because their first priority must be finding a shelter to survive for the next 3 days. In this treacherous demo lane, there are several elements that can be utilized for survival, such as traps that drain a person's power, the healing pond, the ominous nightmare forest, various ecosystems for foraging, and of course, shelters. If one hopes to survive for the full 3 days, finding a shelter is paramount. Finding shelter is the absolute top priority. As they move, Yoo-jun questions Jay Hyun, wondering if it wouldn't be much safer to bring Sioena along, pointing out that she's also a magic cadet and that there's strength in numbers. This rational suggestion from Yoo-jun unnerves Jay Hyun, especially since he knows that teaming up with Sioena is logically the smartest move they could make. The problem is, she's a complete wildcard, a variable he can't possibly control. Although his knowledge of her is limited to news reports, he recalls a grim incident from the past, a day when Ina completely lost her senses in a fit of rage and ended up putting an immense number of lives in grave danger. Jay Hyun explains to Yoo Jung that this isn't a simple decision to make, because there's absolutely no guarantee that Ina wouldn't turn on them. Furthermore, he's noticed that the girl is incredibly wary of them and clearly doesn't trust them in the slightest. However, Yoo Jung counters, saying that from her perspective, Ina is just like a younger version of Jay Hyun. Before he can even respond, she walks right up to Ina and asks her if she would like to join their group, seeing as they're all students at the same magic academy. Ina remains silent for a moment, prompting Yoo Jung to add that this whole event is unfairly stacked against freshmen, so their chances of survival are much higher if they stick together. Ina seems to be considering her words, but then suggests that they postpone the decision of moving as a group for a later time. Just then, Yoo Jung's heart sinks as she realizes they've walked straight into an ambush by a group of seniors who look thrilled to have already cornered some freshmen. One of the seniors, Shinju Shang, gloats that it looks like they're going to have an easy time racking up points this year. His companion, Kwon Soi, wonders aloud why there are 3 first years when she had only detected 2. Her eyes land on Jay Hyun, and she's visibly shocked. She can't sense a single drop of magical energy from him. Meanwhile, Yoo-jun recognizes that these seniors are all warriors. She quickly urges Jay Hyun that they need to escape immediately, but he firmly insists that they must deal with them right here, right now, arguing that if they run, they'll never truly get away. From what Jay Hyun recalls, Kwon Soi possesses a unique ability that lets her track any target she locks onto within a 300-kilometer radius, an ability called Search. If they don't neutralize them now, she'll just gather more seniors to hunt them down. Zhuang tells Soi that after they score a mountain of points this time, he's going to treat himself to a feast, but Soi sternly warns him not to be so careless, pointing out that something is deeply unsettling about Jay Hyun. However, Zhuang simply scoffs, summons his sword, and declares that Jay Hyun is nothing but a freshman, while they have years of experience from participating in this event multiple times. He tells Soi to just sit back and watch as he finishes them all in a single instant. With that, he charges forward. Jay Hyun remains perfectly still, and when Wong swings his blade, he simply leans back, dodging the blow with impossible grace. The fact that our boy so easily evades his attack completely stuns Wong, and Soi immediately curses him, calling him a thick-headed fool for ignoring her warning that something was off about the boy. Jay Hyun calmly notes that it's been quite some time since anyone has dared to swing a sword at him. Meanwhile, Wong tries to convince himself that it was just a lucky fluke. There's no way a freshman skilled enough to counter him would be unknown throughout the entire Magic Academy. He sneers at Jay Hyun, reminding him he's just a magic class freshman, and lunges in for another strike, but Jay Hyun evades it again with ease. Frustrated, the senior unleashes a furious barrage of sword strikes, yet not a single one makes contact. Whatever power Jay Hyun hides, it's clearly on another level. Eventually, Wong starts to sweat, wondering what incredible power the boy hides that makes it impossible to land a single attack. Suddenly, Jay Hyun seizes the senior's sword mid-swing and even offers a compliment on his skills. As our hero closes the distance on the trembling senior, he shatters the blade with nothing but his bare hands, tauntingly asking how someone so weak survived this long. With a final, decisive move, Jay Hyun crushes the remains of the sword, stunning Sioena. Jay Hyun then turns to Ju Shang, offering him a single chance, leave his name tag and walk away. He begins a 3-second countdown, the image of his shattered sword still seared into the senior's mind. Ju Shang begins to shiver, unable to comprehend how a mere freshman from the Magic Academy could possess such an overwhelming aura. When Ju Shang remains frozen in fear, Jay Hyun coldly remarks that his one and only chance has just expired. In a single fluid motion, Jay Hyun delivers a devastating punch to Ju Shang's jaw, sending him flying backward onto the ground. Instantly, the freshman hunt system announces that Shin Ju Shang has been eliminated. Back in the Magic Academy's control room, the instructors stare in disbelief at the screen. Min Jae Hyun has acquired 100,000 points. An instructor named Jong Yu expresses her shock. It wasn't the expected An Hoyen, but this unknown Min Jae Hyun who hides his true strength so well. She turns to another instructor, named Park Hajin, questioning if there's some kind of system error, but Hajin, just as stunned, explains that the system is functioning perfectly. Hajin then checks with another colleague, Kim Jian, who also reports no issues on her end. Everything is operating as it should. Meanwhile, a subtle smirk plays on Chairman Gi's lips. He's clearly intrigued by Min Jae Hyun. Back inside the Demic Labyrinth, Soil demands to know what kind of monster Jay Hyun truly is, but our hero tells Yu Jung to prepare to engage the other senior. He asks her to accept the party invitation he's about to send, and as Yu Jung readies her gear, she can't help but wonder if Jay Hyun was always hiding this incredible level of strength. Ina also prepares for battle, while Soil silently curses the foolish Ju Shang for making the situation infinitely more complicated. Even without the monster who dispatched Ju Shang, a 3-against-1 fight is far too risky. She concludes that her only option is to eliminate at least one of them to create an escape route. After grabbing one of her daggers, she lunges toward the startled Yu Jung. Jay Hyun calmly assesses the situation, noting that Soil's decision isn't a bad one. He understands her strategy, create chaos with a surprise attack and use the opening to flee. A solid plan, but it's one that would only succeed against an ordinary person. To Soil's astonishment, Yu Jung unleashes her binding ability to counterattack, forcing the senior to hurl her daggers in desperation. But before they can connect, Yu Jung conjures a protective barrier around her body. Jay Hyun, observing from the side, knows that it's still too much for Yu Jung to handle a senior completely on her own. But just as he moves to intervene, Ina invokes a power known as the Holy Light of Alfheim. Ina channels the Holy Light, forming a brilliant sword that immediately captures Jay Hyun's attention. He recognizes it as Ina's unique skill, the one called the Falcon of Alfheim. Ina rains down a barrage of holy swords upon the unsuspecting senior, impaling her and causing her to sputter blood from her mouth. As Soil collapses, the horrifying realization dawns on her. All 3 of these freshmen were monsters, not just the one. Moments later, the system declares the elimination of player Kwon Soil. Based on the degree of contribution, player Yu Jung is awarded 50,000 points, while Ina receives an equal 50,000. With the senior now defeated, Ina turns to the others, asking if she happened to interrupt their moment. An ecstatic Eugene immediately reassures her, saying she didn't, because her arrival was the very reason they won. Taking the opportunity, Ina then asks if the offer she had proposed before is still on the table. Our boy quickly realizes he needs to completely update his file on Koina. It's now perfectly clear that she's reserved, deeply distrusting, and incredibly curious. Shortly after, the system chimes in, informing the 3 of them that they have successfully formed a party and that it has designated Jay Hyun as the party's leader. Later on, near a shelter in the Nightmare Forest, a set of footprints are clearly visible, and some students figure out that people have passed through here before, seemingly entering a nearby shelter. The seniors are on the hunt for the freshmen who took down Kwon Soi and Shin Junang, so they decide to call off the active search and simply keep a close watch on this area. The freshman hunt game lasts for 3 days, and they're betting those brats can't stay where the shelter hides them for the entire 3 days. As they move in to secure the location, Yu Jung suddenly appears nearby, and a senior named Kim Seong-hun is instantly pierced in the chest by a beam of light as the system announces his elimination. Another senior spots Yu Jung making a run for it and alerts the rest, who immediately give chase. However, Yu Jung is running with a confident smile on her face, and when she counts that there are about 5 of them, she's relieved that everything is proceeding smoothly. She soon glances back at them, taunting that they're like dogs scrambling after a bone. So, she asks if they aren't embarrassed to be moving in such a large pack, and the infuriated seniors just demand she stop right there. But Yu Jung keeps running, amused by their simple-mindedness. This was all part of a plan laid out just a while ago, when Jay Hyun had told them that although shelters may be a safe place, they couldn't just stay put the entire time because they had to find food and market. More importantly, they needed to obtain points. The girls were surprised, but our boy plainly told them that they were going to have to hunt some seniors. Back in the present, Yu Jung keeps running until she spots some specific mushrooms, which are, in fact, a Class 1 organism that can severely reduce one's abilities. She's delighted that she found it and has successfully lured the seniors over exactly as planned, but she grows concerned as her own endurance slowly starts to reach its limit. Using the wind boost skill, she blasts herself far away from them, leaving the rest of the plan in Jay Hyun's hands. When the seniors enter the area, they're immediately informed that they've entered the paralyzing spore mushroom habitat. A while back, Jay Hyun had visited Jang to figure out a way to handle the paralyzing spore mushroom during the freshman hunt, and Jang had informed him that ash tree sap would probably be the best method, since it's quite common in the Nightmare Forest, but it's only useful as a cure and cannot prevent the effect. If you're already under the effects of the paralyzing spore mushroom, then it would be incredibly effective. In the present, the seniors grind to a halt when they realize where they are. As they watch Yu Jung run away, the system confirms that they have entered the paralyzing spore mushroom habitat. One of them signals to their leader, Jihyuk, that this is extremely dangerous, so he suggests that they retreat. But Jihyuk angrily sets his sights on Yu Jung, who is still getting away. He asks the others if they're really saying they should give up when they've gotten this far, but the others know that everything they've worked for at this magic academy will be ruined if they make a mistake now. One of them suggests they abandon the chase, but Jihyuk furiously insists that Kim Seong-hyun was taken down by that freshman brat, referring to Yu Jung, and that they have no time to be spouting such nonsense. The more cautious member of his group reminds Jihyuk once again that it's irrelevant if their target is a freshman, because it'll all be for nothing if they get themselves paralyzed as well. He points out that the paralyzing spore mushroom can neutralize anyone within an approximate 50-meter radius, but Jihyuk simply assures them that the little brat will be caught in her own trap. He then orders a man named Park Kung-huk to remain behind and steer clear of the debuff zone to act as their lookout, while the rest of them will follow his lead to capture the girl. He scoffs, believing all their petty tricks are useless, even though he suspects their little bait routine hides a deeper trap. They're using one of their own members as bait, trying to lure his team into an ambush, but he feels they're severely looking down on him. He can't fathom how mere freshmen from the Magic Academy would have the audacity to try and outsmart him. After sprinting ahead, they finally corner Yu Jung, and Jihyuk sneers that a worthless brat like her certainly made them run for it. He mockingly asks where she thinks she can possibly run now, but instead of trembling, she greets them with a smirk and declares that they're all finished. Yu Jung then coolly asks which one of them was cursing at her, telling the culprit to raise his hand as the men charge toward her with weapons drawn. Jihyuk is amused, thinking she's committed to acting arrogant until the very end. Just as the men are about to reach her, she smiles and taps one of the mushrooms with her weapon, triggering a massive burst. A system notification announces that a paralyzing spore mushroom has detonated, and all organisms within a 50-meter radius have been paralyzed for a full 2 hours. In a flashback, Yu Jung protests to Jay Hyun, complaining that he claimed they were searching for something vital, but the place they're in has nothing but trees. He calmly tells her to wait a moment, confirming they're in the right spot as he begins to drain some ash tree sap. Yun points out the obvious fact that this event is designed to be far more advantageous for warriors, and Ina concurs, adding that being restricted to C-rank skills and below is a huge handicap for magicians who are heavily reliant on their powerful spells. For warriors who already possess superior physical stats, the Demolane's restrictions are practically meaningless, especially for students from the Magic Academy. Yu Jung laments that it's one thing for Ina, who has a unique skill, but all of her own useful offensive skills are completely sealed. The best she can muster are buff spells and the most basic of skills. When she asks what on earth she's supposed to do, Jay Hyun explains that their strategy hinges on using those basic skills with maximum efficiency. With that, he asks if she knows how to use the skill known as change. Yu Jung proudly confirms that she can, reminding him that she was the one who taught him magic theory in the first place. Ina chimes in, clarifying that change is a spell that swaps the user's location with a designated party member, and she asks him what kind of plan he could possibly devise with such a simple skill. Once he's finished collecting the ash tree sap, he tells the ladies that the sap hides a secret, and that they can do something quite fun by combining change with it. Back in the present, Jay Hyun tells Ina that it's time to get ready, and she nods in agreement. On the field where Yu Jung sprung the trap, Jihyuk roars, calling her an insane witch for actually detonating one of the spores, but Yu Jung simply activates her change skill, declaring it's time to pass the baton. As she vanishes in a flash of light, she tells them her part is now over. In her place, Jay Hyun materializes and slams his foot directly into Jihyuk's face, announcing that this is his ascendance. It's our hero's turn now. He shatters the senior's nose with a brutal strike, sending him crashing to the ground before landing gracefully himself. Ji-Hyuk hits the dirt, his body completely locked up by the paralysis, and a stream of curses escapes his lips. He furiously spits at Jay Hyun, asking if he really thinks that everything is going to go his way, calling him a complete fool for wandering right into the paralyzing spore mushroom's territory. He sneers, informing Jay Hyun that he anticipated a move like this, which is why he left one of his companions where he hides in ambush just outside this area, and he promises him that they're all finished the moment these spores wear off. But before Ji-Hyuk can even finish his threat, Jay Hyun calmly informs him that the backup he left behind isn't going to show up. Baffled, Ji-Hyuk scoffs that he's bluffing, but a blood-curdling scream suddenly pierces the air from the very spot they'd stationed Seunguk, followed by a cold system announcement. Player Park, Seunguk, has been eliminated. The scene flashes to Seunguk, sprawled on the ground with Ina's holy sword impaled through his chest, as the system awards a massive 100,000 points to Jay Hyun, Yu, Jung, and Ina. Ji-Hyuk can only lie there in utter disbelief while Jay Hyun coolly reminds him that he already told him his friend wouldn't be coming. Seething with uncontrollable rage, Ji-Hyuk screams that it doesn't matter, they're all stuck in the same paralyzed state for the next 2 hours, and he'll personally tear him apart once the paralysis lifts. But while he's still running his mouth, our protagonist calmly takes a single step forward and asks him what he meant by them being in the same situation. The sight completely floors Ji-Hyuk, who stares in horror, wondering how this guy is even moving. He stammers that it's impossible, and Jay Hyun casually agrees with him that it should be. However, Jay Hyun suggests he should probably take that complaint up with the gods. The reality is, our hero is completely immune to the paralysis debuff, because the blessing of hell he hides completely nullifies any and all status ailments inflicted upon him. A cold sweat starts to pour down Ji-Hyuk's face as he desperately warns Jay Hyun to stay back, but his teammates can only watch in horror at the grim scene unfolding before them, as their leader is decisively taken out. The system chimes in again. Player Oh Jin-Hyuk has been eliminated, and players Jay Hyun, Yu, Jung, and Anna have obtained another 100,000 points. With that business concluded, our boy turns with a chilling smile toward the 3 remaining opponents and, despite their desperate pleas for him to stop, he efficiently eliminates all 3, securing another 100,000 points for each takedown. Instructor Yu stares, unable to process what she's just witnessed, as the freshman ranking for the entire Magic Academy updates in real time. Min Jae-hun is now at the very top, with Kim Yu-jung and Seo Ina sharing the second rank, and Hoi also in second, 2 individuals named Lee Soo-hyuk and Cha Yuan tied for 5th, and someone called Jang Hosen holding the 7th spot. Meanwhile, Yu-jung forces down the ash tree sap and gags, nearly throwing it all up, but when Ina rushes over to check on her, she admits that she's actually feeling much better now. As the two of them start to move out, Ina remarks that Jay Hyun seems to possess an incredible amount of knowledge about magic, and she's never read in any of the Magic Academy textbooks that the change skill could be used in such a way. However, Yu-jung drops a bombshell, informing her that it hasn't even been 3 months since Jay Hyun first became a magician, which is precisely why she was the one who had to teach him all the basic theory. Stunned, Ina asks if she's saying that Jay Hyun was originally on the path to becoming a warrior, and Yu-jung confirms it, adding that just a few months ago, Jay Hyun was completely dedicated to a life of physical combat. The one thing that still puzzles Yu-jung, though, is that Jay Hyun knew about the ash tree sap. She can't help but wonder where he learned something like that and how he plans to deal with his own paralysis. Shortly after, they run right into him, and our hero casually asks how they're feeling, noting that the paralysis doesn't seem to be affecting either of them in the slightest. Yu-jung brightly replies that it's to be expected, conveniently forgetting she was just running for her life a moment ago. And with just a single spell, the threat was neutralized. Yu-jung turned to Ina, checking if she was all right, to which Ina gave a quiet confirmation. Yu-jung conceded to Jay Hyun that his plan, for once, wasn't half bad. She even added that while he usually looks like a fool, he seemed a bit different today. Before she could finish, Jay Hyun playfully grabbed her cheeks, demanding to know who she was calling a fool and if she had any room to talk. Ina simply observed their bickering, wondering why Yu-jung would even call Jay Hyun stupid. To her own surprise, she found herself thinking he was actually quite handsome. As their squabbling continued, Ina was taken aback by her own thoughts. This was hardly the time for such daydreams. A single tear escaped, a stark reminder of the mission she carefully hides from them. She had to remain vigilant. Later, back in the safety of their makeshift shelter, Jay Hyun began to prepare something. He was mixing a strange-looking concoction. Ina, curious, walked over and asked what he was brewing, and he told her it was a health recovery potion. He mentioned that a senior had taught him the recipe for emergencies, a practical skill not typically taught at their magic academy. A flashback hit him of Jong weeping over the brutal massacre of ingredients it took for him to finally get it right after more than 100 attempts. Yu-jung then asked Jay Hyun how he could possibly know someone with such skills when he barely had any friends to begin with, but he just taunted her back. He asked if her social circle extended much further than him. The jab landed perfectly, and Yu-jung grumbled that his comment was unfair. Interrupting them, Ina earnestly told Jay Hyun he was truly incredible, that he didn't seem like someone their own age at all. She said he was so skilled, it was as if he'd already lived an extra decade. Jay Hyun was momentarily speechless, baffled by her sharp perception. How did she possess such uncanny intuition? Her timing was perfect. Eventually, Yu Jung cut in, declaring it was time to stop the chatter. She reminded them they needed to eat if they hoped to accomplish anything the next day, telling our hero to just wait and see. She boasted that she would whip something up, but he quickly shut that down, suggesting they just eat the fruits they had foraged. Annoyed, Yu Jung demanded to know why, asking if he had zero faith in her. In response, our boy posed a simple challenge. If she wanted his trust, she just had to tell him the color of the cookies she baked back in their middle school home economics class. After a moment of thought, Yu Jung confidently recalled that they were a distinct shade of purple, prompting Enna to ask if she had used blueberry jam. Jay Hyun quickly clarified that was definitely not the reason. The truth is, Yu Jung is a culinary disaster, and he remembered having to call a teacher. The poor man had completely passed out after taking a single bite of her cookie. To be fair, Jay Hyun admitted he wasn't much of a cook himself. That's when Ina spoke up, mentioning she knew her way around a kitchen and offered to cook for them. A surprised Jay Hyun asked if she really knew how. She explained that she cooked every single day back when she lived with her grandmother. As Ina tied up her hair to begin, our hero reflected. He recalled that any information about Ina's family life was practically non-existent. All he knew was this brief mention of her grandmother. He couldn't help but wonder what kind of tragic story she hides concerning her parents. After a short while, the meal was ready. Ina had finished cooking and served the food. The moment Yu Jung took a bite, she threw her arms around Enna in delight. She exclaimed that the food was absolutely divine. Jay Hyun, already stuffing his face, had to agree it was incredible. He was astonished they could eat something this delicious out in a place like this. Their heartfelt compliments seemed to warm Ina's heart. A genuine smile graced her lips. It had been a long time since she felt this way. Meanwhile, in the infamous Meals Magic Academy. Inside the control room, Instructor Sayoki points out that the highly anticipated cadet and Hoyen has fallen to 4th place. What's even more astonishing is that the 1st and 2nd spots are held by magicians, a truly incredible feat. Meanwhile, Instructor Yu still speculates about a potential system error, as there appears to be no other logical explanation for this outcome. Chairman Jia, however, is visibly beaming with excitement, noting that until this moment, only warriors had ever achieved such scores. He can hardly comprehend this unprecedented situation, where a party of just 3 magicians is dominating the entire event, having eliminated a team of seniors right from the start. Thrilled, the chairman instructs Kim Ji to rewind the footage to the paralyzing spore sequence, where he watches Jay Hyun deliver a swift kick to Se-Huk's face the moment he materializes. He's captivated by the fact that the boy possesses such sharp judgment under pressure, not to mention an ability that hides enough power to overwhelm warriors. Labeling him a mere magician, let alone a freshman at this magic academy, is simply unbelievable. Abruptly, Instructor Hajin calls out to the chairman, explaining that he has Jay Hyun's profile as requested, but expresses uncertainty about whether it's the correct file. The chairman, perplexed, asks for clarification. As Hajin starts to stammer, the chairman calmly tells him to collect himself and speak clearly. Finally, the instructor presents the profile, which reveals that our boy's aptitude score is a staggering 97%, and his official class is listed as warrior. The information stuns the chairman, but his shock quickly morphs into a wild, maniacal grin as he declares that this development is absolutely perfect. He proclaims his desire to personally witness just how talented this Jay Hyun truly is, prompting Instructor Sioki to ask if he intends to interfere with the event personally. The chairman focuses the monitor on Hoyen and proposes they orchestrate a more interesting scenario, to which Instructor Sioki replies that he will make all the necessary preparations. Back inside the Demon Lane, Jay Hyun's group continues to eliminate other participants, steadily racking up points. At one point, Yu Jung expresses her astonishment that they've amassed over 1,100,000 points, and Jay Hyun replies that this is excellent, as it all but guarantees them the top spot. However, Yu Jung questions if they truly need to abandon their current shelter. Jay Hyun explains that they have no choice, since the seniors have grown too fearful to approach them there any longer. Ina concurs with Jay Hyun, stating that they must relocate if they hope to score more points. Ultimately, Yu Jung agrees with both of them and then asks about the all-time record for points obtained during the freshman hunt. Ina promptly informs her that it stands at 1,140,000 points. As they press onward, our protagonist suddenly senses a presence, signaling the girls to prepare themselves for an incoming threat. As they stand ready, a figure blasts past them at incredible speed, and Jay Hyun immediately notices that the power emanating from this individual far exceeds the restricted level of the event. A system alert then announces that the connection to the Demon Lane has become unstable and that a player's power restriction has been shattered. Jay Hyun addresses the newcomer, remarking that he never expected they would meet again under these circumstances. It's then revealed that the individual freed from his restrictions is none other than Honen. When Jay Hyun asks what he's doing, Hone remains silent, his gaze fixed on the ground. This causes Jay Hyun to wonder if his voice is even reaching him. Ina urgently warns Jay Hyun to be cautious, sensing that the guy isn't in his right mind, as if he's being controlled by an unseen force. Hearing this, our hero suddenly remembers that this was undoubtedly the chairman's handiwork. Before his regression, a nearly identical incident had occurred at the Mills Festival that very day, a day meant to create cherished memories for the young cadets. Instead, it was scarred by horrific crimson stains that could never be washed away. The root of that catastrophe was Gujian's unique skill, indoctrination. Once all his heinous deeds were exposed, right before his capture, Gujian orchestrated a horrific event to divert the world's attention from his crimes. The ensuing chaos hides his escape, and on that tragic day, countless cadets lost their lives while Gujian vanished. For Jay Hyun, it was also the day Kim Yu-jang was tragically killed. Back in the present, Hone ignites his sword, and Jay Hyun knows he must first snap Hone out of this trance. Abruptly, a screen materializes from the Norner system, issuing a new sub-quest to save the cadet ensnared by mind control. His objective is to shatter the spell gripping the cadet and rescue him. The quest difficulty is C rank, with a reward of 1 blank card and a strict 2-hour time limit. Jay Hyun is taken aback by the sub-quest, but even more so by the mention of a blank card as the reward. The very idea of obtaining a blank card, a tool to copy another's abilities, sends a thrill through him. Yoo-jun immediately offers her help, but he assures her he can handle it and urges the girls to get to safety. He tells them to put as much distance as possible between them in this fight, and maybe even rack up some points while they're at it. Yoo-jung, completely baffled, reminds him that his opponent is the renowned genius warrior. There's no way he can win alone. But our hero just gives her a confident smile and asks, "Do you really think I can't?" For a moment, Ina hesitates, but she ultimately agrees to go, leaving Yoo-jun stunned by the fact that she's actually siding with Jay Hyun. Frustrated, Yoo-jung decides to go along with it, suggesting they go score points just as he said, but not before telling him to stay safe. She then dashes into the woods, dragging Ina, who is still staring back at Jay Hyun, and tells him to rough Hoyen up a bit or snatch his name tag before finding them. After the girls are gone, our hero mutters to himself that this won't take long. Flashback to a few hours earlier, right after Hoyen had just eliminated one of the seniors. He calculates that his last takedown brought his total to 600,000 points. He's relieved to have survived for 2 days and knows he only needs to endure for 1 more. Currently in 4th place, he can't help but wonder how 1st place remains just out of his grasp despite his intense efforts, realizing this is the high standard expected at Mu's Magic Academy. The fact that Jay Hyun, a magician, secured the top rank in a scenario where his skills were limited, and even carried his teammates to the top with him, is truly impressive. Still, he resolves that he can't afford to lose and must push even harder because there's still time left on the clock. As he's strategizing, Chairman Ja suddenly appears on his screen, informing him that he requires his personal assistance with a certain matter. The chairman then activates his indoctrination skill on Hoyen, telling him he has a small favor to ask. As Hoyen's eyes glow under the influence of the indoctrination, the system flashes a warning. Someone has infiltrated his mind. While the sinister power overtakes him, he wonders what he's doing, where he even is. A moment later, the system confirms that his mind has been corrupted. The moment this happens, he's overcome with a single overriding objective: eliminate Jay Hyun. Back in the present, Hone unleashes an A-rank skill called Martial. He lunges at Jay Hyun again, swinging his blade, but our hero deftly sidesteps the lethal blow. Jay Hyun can't believe it. Hone's skill has skyrocketed in just a few days, yet he manages to evade every single strike. It's as if Hone has transformed into a completely different fighter. As Hone lunges forward to bash him with his shield, Jay Hyun leaps backward, narrowly avoiding the crushing impact. He knows that in a pure contest of physical strength, he is at a severe disadvantage. Needing to create some space, our protagonist unleashes a powerful gust of wind, propelling himself backward. The force from his wind boost skill is so immense that Hone is forced to raise his shield, instinctively protecting his face. This momentary distraction is all Jay Hyun needs, allowing him to circle behind Hone before the shield is lowered. Our hero prepares to use a bolt of lightning magic on him, but before the spell can connect, Hone spins around and retreats in a single, fluid motion. This incredible reaction time stuns Jay Hyun. Hone's body moved defensively even before his eyes could register the threat. It's clear now that his opponent possesses a profound, innate battle sense, and this fight is far from the easy win he'd anticipated. Overcoming mere indoctrination would be simple with his absolute calculation ability. The real complication, however, is that Chairman Jin is observing them. Even without seeing him, Jay Hyun can picture the chairman's sinister grin as he watches the spectacle unfold. Pitting him against the gifted warrior and Hone, a smirk now plays on Jay Hyun's lips. He considers that it would be such a waste to end this encounter so carelessly. If they want a show, he'll give them one, but he vows to make it an unforgettable performance. An expensive one. When Jay Hyun truly begins to unleash his power, Instructor Yu questions if her eyes are deceiving her. It's utterly astonishing. A student from this magic academy, a supposed magician, is fighting on the front lines like a seasoned warrior. But now he's completely overwhelming his opponent, the renowned genius warrior, and Ho Yan. On the battlefield, Jay Hyun appears to be employing his lightning chain skill, a sight Yu finds utterly surreal. She can't fathom how this young man hides such incredible combat prowess. It defies all logic. A magician should never win against a warrior in close quarters. That fundamental rule has been carved into her very soul throughout her entire career as a magician. Meanwhile, Chairman John's interest sharpens as he watches Jay Hyun finally wound Hone. Inside the demo lane, Hone is on one knee, clutching his sword, as Jay Hyun calmly tells him that he never intended for it to go this far, but reassures him that he's tough and will recover in no time. Eventually, Jay Hyun glances upward, directly at the instructors he knows are watching. With a deliberate move, he activates his flash bomb skill, and the blinding flash whites out every camera, plunging the instructor's view of the field into darkness. Inside the main control room, Instructor Siaki frantically turns to Gion, demanding to know what just happened to their monitors, but the chairman instantly realizes that something is terribly wrong. He snatches the remote from her, desperately trying to restore the video feed. Instructor Jian speculates that Jay Hyun must have used a spell to block their vision, but Chairman Jin immediately recognizes the signature of a flash bomb. He mutters aloud, wondering if this is truly how Jay Hyun intends to play this game, before immediately summoning Instructor Sioki, ordering him to bring Jay Hyun to his office the moment the event concludes. A worried Siaki asks the chairman if such a hasty decision is wise, but the already furious chairman simply places a heavy hand on the instructor's shoulder and questions why Cadet Jay Hyun, who had already secured a clear victory, would suddenly choose to obscure their view. Soki nervously suggests that Jay Hyun understands how to strategically increase his own value. Inside the demo lane, Holland is still on the ground, disoriented as the blinding flash bomb hides everything from sight. Jay Hyun approaches him, places a hand on his head, and activates his absolute calculation skill, a power that allows him to shatter the indoctrination that had seized Hohen's mind. Instantly, the haze in Hohen's eyes begins to clear, and he recognizes Jay Hyun standing before him. With a calm smile, our protagonist asks if he's feeling alright, prompting Hohen to try and push himself up. Hohen claims he's better, but a wave of excruciating pain forces him back to the ground, his body collapsing under the strain. Our hero offers a wry apology for the pain, reminding Hohen that he was the one who launched the unprovoked attack, but Hohen appears to have no memory of the assault. He questions why he would ever do such a thing, and Jay Hyun explains that he was under the influence of a mind control spell. Baffled, Hohen asks for clarification, but as he searches his memory, fragments of a vision surface, a face he can't quite place, and a voice that remains eerily indistinct. Still, the situation doesn't add up for Hohen, because spells powerful enough to control someone, even briefly, are typically of a very high rank. Yet, the rules for this test at the Magic Academy explicitly stated they could only use skills of C rank or lower. Jay Hyun admits he doesn't have all the answers, suggesting that there might have been a malfunction within the demo lane system, or more ominously, that someone interfered. Hohen falls silent, processing this. He realizes that no mere cadet could cast a mind control spell of this magnitude, even if there was a system malfunction. Finally, he asks Jay Hyun if he has any idea who might have intervened, assuming that's what happened, and for what possible reason. Jay Hyun feigns ignorance, but adds a cryptic warning that whoever was behind this is likely a person whom most would never dare to oppose. Jay Hyun intentionally hides the full truth, refusing to spell it out, confident that with more experience at Mila's, Hohen will eventually deduce the truth for himself about the kind of person Gua truly is. Just then, the Norner system chimes, announcing that Jay Hyun has successfully cleared the subquest to rescue the mind-controlled cadet, rewarding him with a coveted blank card. Meanwhile, Hohen makes another attempt to stand. He assesses the damage his body is a wreck, while Jay Hyun is completely unscathed and he's forced to confront the vast gap in their current power levels. Once on his feet, Hohen admits he has no excuses and sincerely apologizes for his actions, but Jay Hyun brushes it off with a lighthearted "don't be weird," stating he's leaving now that Hohen is mobile. Before departing, Jay Hyun wishes him luck for the remainder of the test, but as he turns to go, Hohen calls out and offers up his own name tag. Stunned, Jay Hyun questions his actions, reminding him that surrendering his name tag means immediate elimination from the test. Hohen insists it doesn't matter, explaining that while he managed to accumulate a decent number of points, it's nothing compared to what Jay Hyun has likely earned. In his eyes, since he was defeated, the name tag rightfully belongs to the victor. Tossing the tag to Jay Hyun, he concedes defeat for now, but declares that things will be different next time, vowing to win his name tag back from him during the Millis festival. With that, Hohen vanishes. The Demolane system's voice rings out, declaring his opponent eliminated and awarding a cool 10,000 points to Jun's team. For a beat, our hero simply stands there, his gaze fixed on the name tag, which he knows is only valued at 10,000 points. Yet, in his eyes, the name tag represents something far more valuable, for Hohen possessed the innate combat talent that he had desperately craved in his previous life. And now, he has finally earned that rival's acknowledgement. He's been through so much since returning to the past, but this particular feeling of victory is on an entirely different plane. A smile plays on his lips as he realizes this is just the start. For the very first time, he feels a genuine sense of progress, leaving behind the pathetic past weakness he carefully hides and taking a decisive step into his new future. A while later, the grueling 72-hour event concludes, and the system begins to tally the final points each student has accumulated. Jay Hyun shatters all previous records, earning an astonishing 1.53 million points before being instantly transported back to the real world. As the students materialize back on campus, our protagonist casually remarks that 1.53 million points is a decent haul. Yu Jung, however, immediately calls him out for his understated reaction, reminding him it's the highest score ever recorded in the Magic Academy's history. She looks to Ina for backup, but Ina just sighs, lamenting that they could have easily broken 1.6 million points if they'd only had one more hour. At that moment, Yu Jung has the profound realization that her teammates are completely out of their minds. Trying to lift their spirits, She points out that they can live a very comfortable life for a while with this many points, a sentiment Jay Hyun readily agrees with. He does a quick mental calculation, noting that if they multiply the points by a factor of 10, it roughly equates to its real-world cash value. It's safe to assume they've just pocketed around 15.3 million won, or roughly $12,000, causing Yoo Jung's jaw to practically hit the floor when Ina hears this. She's equally stunned by the sheer scale of their earnings. Our hero then informs them that while he's in first place, the second place team has 1.48 million points, and that they should all be receiving bonus points as well. The very mention of bonus points sends Yoo Jung into a frenzy as she grabs onto Jay Hyun, who tries to fend her off while explaining the bonus is likely around 1 million points. The mere thought of that much extra cash makes Yoo Jung's eyes sparkle as she immediately begins spinning Ina around in a celebratory dance, all thanks to the prospect of 1 million bonus points. As they dance joyfully, Yoo Jung gasps, shocked that they now have 2.48 million points, which translates to a whopping 24.8 million won earned in just 3 days. Jay Hyun attempts to halt their embarrassing display, especially when he notices the other Magic Academy students staring at them with utter contempt. But the girls are lost in their song until instructor Seoki enters the room, offering a greeting to the assembled students. After introducing himself, he announces he has something to discuss with the top 3 winners specifically. Seeking some privacy, he suggests they move to a different location. Jay Hyun immediately asks if this is related to the massive number of points they acquired during the hunt. When the instructor simply nods, Jay Hyun follows without hesitation. The girls, however, hang back, demanding to know their destination first. But Jay Hyun, who hides a wealth of future knowledge, is already one step ahead, telling them they're headed to the chairman's office. Seoki confirms this prediction, formally informing the trio that they have been summoned by the chairman himself. Upon entering the opulent office, our hero confidently takes a seat and crosses his legs, asking where the chairman is, coolly remarking that the person who summoned them isn't even here. This blatant disrespect irritates Seoki, but he is forced to rein himself in. The young women trailing behind him are baffled by Jay Hyun's sudden shift in demeanor, and they remain frozen in place until Seoki gestures for them to take their seats as well. Once they're seated, the chairman makes his entrance, offering his apologies for the delay. The 2 women immediately spring to their feet, with Yoo Jung loudly introducing herself, and Ina quickly following her lead, while Jay Hyun remains seated, completely unfazed. The chairman cheerfully assures them he's well aware of who they are, a fact that Yoo Jung clearly delights in. Unimpressed, Jay Hyun points out the chairman's tardiness, remarking that he nearly dozed off waiting. This audacious comment stuns the women, and even Seoki tenses up, wondering if the boy has completely lost his senses. A heavy silence hangs in the office for a few tense moments before the chairman concedes he has no valid excuse for his lateness. He then claims he required some time to prepare for their discussion, but Jay Hyun cuts him off, retorting that they're the ones who truly have no excuse, having been summoned immediately after a grueling 3-day stint in the demo lane, without even a moment to wash up, leaving them with 0 time to prepare. The chairman's expression tightens once more, but this time it dissolves into laughter. Jay Hyun instantly recognizes the facade, concluding that the chairman's act is a clear sign of his deep interest in the students before him. At last, the chairman reveals he has come bearing some exceptionally beneficial news for them. He begins by congratulating them for being the absolute cream of the crop, securing the top 3 positions in this year's freshman hunt, with a special mention for Jay Hyun, who claimed the coveted first-place rank. In response, Jay Hyun deflects the praise, insisting it was all thanks to his party members and that he couldn't have accomplished it alone. This humble reply seems to throw the chairman off, as he silently wonders if the boy has no desire to flaunt his own incredible abilities. He eventually concedes Jay Hyun's point but adds that he has personally observed all his actions, and he couldn't help but notice they had shattered the freshman hunt's previous record of 1.14 million points by a staggering margin. As he claps and declares the result was simply unbelievable, the ladies graciously thank him. Jay Hyun, however, cuts straight to the chase and asks him what his real point is, causing Yoo Jung's anxiety to spike again. After a brief pause, the chairman explains that this Magic Academy would like to extend a few special privileges to them. First, a suite in one of the dormitory buildings within the academy grounds will be provided to them completely free of charge. Second, they'll receive priority access to all academy facilities that normally require booking well in advance. And third, should they ever receive an unsatisfactory grade on a school test, they will be granted an opportunity to retake it. Having laid out the generous offer, the chairman asks for their thoughts and clarifies that accepting means they will be signing a partnership contract with the academy. He barely hides his excitement for their answer. But before the chairman can even finish his sentence, Jay Hyun flatly rejects the entire proposal. Our protagonist explains that while the benefits sound appealing, they are all things the team could easily acquire on their own within a month or so, especially since Milas is, at its core, a merit-based institution. Therefore, he sees no reason to accept them in exchange for some hidden, unnecessary fee. With that, he snatches the contract from the chairman's grasp and begins to scan the terms and conditions. He quickly finds the catch. After signing a partnership contract with the academy, once they begin their careers as raiders, they would be obligated to donate over 30% of their income to the school for a minimum of 5 years. By now, the chairman's expression is decidedly grim, as Jay Hyun finally looks up and tells him that this is not to reward them, but to ensnare them. When he questions the chairman about his intentions, the man takes a long pause and claims his hands are tied if that's what Jay Hyun believes, especially since no one can be forced into signing a contract. He declares that the final decision rests with the three of them, prompting the ladies to glance at one another, trying to gauge their reactions to this bizarre situation. After a moment of silence, Yoo Jung apologizes and formally declines the offer, with Ina quickly following suit. The chairman conceals his face, feigning deep contemplation, but the fury he hides is betrayed by the veins bulging on his hand. At last, he sighs that it's a shame, claiming this was the best offer he could possibly extend. However, the chairman then says he will grant them one more chance to reconsider. With that, he locks his gaze onto Jay Hyun, activating his indoctrination skill, and asks if he is truly set on his decision. Instantly, the Norner system alerts him to a strange infiltration of his mind. This was exactly what Jay Hyun had been anticipating, but the system quickly informs him that he has completely resisted the debuff, all thanks to his passive skill, Hell's Blessing. As this mental battle unfolds, our hero hands Hell his blank card to copy the power, revealing that he had only provoked the chairman in the first place precisely to bait him into using this skill. For a brief moment, the chairman just sits there, utterly bewildered as to why his ability had no effect. Finally, our hero announces their departure, and the Norner system confirms that he has successfully acquired the skill Indoctrination. This powerful skill, ranked as unique, allows him to manipulate anyone weaker than himself to do his bidding. Should both parties consent to a master-servant pact, the skill evolves into subordination. Jay Hyun then stands up and suggests to the ladies that it's time to leave, especially after their exhausting 4-day ordeal in the demo lane. Once Jay Hyun exits the office, Yoo Jung politely tells the men to have a pleasant day, while a still confused Ina announces that they will be taking their leave. After the students have finally departed, Jian dismisses instructor Siaki. Once he is alone, he muses on how a mere freshman from this magic academy could possibly resist his unique skill, finding the entire situation incredibly intriguing. Outside the office, Jay Hyun checks in with the ladies, asking if they are truly okay with turning down Jian's proposition. Yoo Jung admits she was tempted for a moment, but ultimately concluded that Jay Hyun's assessment was correct, since it was painfully obvious Jian was just sweet-talking them, planning to take advantage of their inexperience. Ina chimes in, agreeing that the contract felt wrong, and believes that rejecting it was absolutely the right decision. Besides, she feels it's far more rewarding to earn achievements through their own efforts rather than starting with unearned privileges. Jay Hyun listens to Ina's words intently, finding her perspective quite reasonable, which is a stark contrast to the cold, distant image he remembered of her before his regression. Abruptly, Yoo Jung asks if anyone else noticed that something was deeply unsettling about Chairman Jian, pointing out his utterly sickening expression the moment they rejected his offer. Ina agrees, adding that both the chairman and instructor Siaki suspiciously never once mentioned the critical malfunction within the demo lane. As Jay Hyun listens, he silently notes that Ina possesses remarkably sharp instincts. Finally, she turns to Jay Hyun, asking if he happens to know anything about Chairman Jiun, perhaps something he hides from everyone. I think so too. Ina observes that he's normally quite composed, but the instant they encountered the chairman, he became strangely confrontational. Yoo Jung agrees with her, then starts pestering Jay Hyun to spill the details if he knows something about the chairman. She demands that he answer their questions, but he claims he isn't certain himself, making it difficult to explain anything clearly. He warns them not to place their trust in anyone at this magic academy, whether it's the chairman or the instructors. Out of nowhere, Ina steps toward him and asks if that means they can't trust him, either. While Jay Hyun hesitates, Yoo Jung slips behind Ina with a mischievous look. She tells her not to trust Jay Hyun either, pointing out that his fierce expression often hides his true intentions. She brings up how he once abandoned her in the middle of the streets instead of taking her home, causing Jay Hyun to ask why she's suddenly digging up the past. Thoroughly annoyed, Yoo Jung grabs his hair and calls him a jerk, reminding him of what a terrible time she had because of him. Eventually, our protagonist manages to pry Yoo Jung off him and suggests they all head inside to rest since night has fallen. As it's time for them to go their separate ways, Ina doesn't seem ready to leave just yet. She asks if this is where they'll be parting ways. For a second, an awkward silence descends as Yoo Jung simply looks at the two of them. Suddenly, she wraps them both in a hug and asks why the atmosphere feels like a scene from a teen romance. She then demands they make some room for her in their little drama. Jay Hyun, however, quickly drags her away and points her toward the girls' dormitory. He tells her to go get some rest. She finally agrees to go, and Ina follows behind her. Before leaving, Ina reminds Jay Hyun to rest well, and our hero soon heads over to the boys' dormitory. When he arrives at the door, it hits him that it has been quite a while since he was last here. He recalls the musty smell of mold lingering in the corners and the floor, which, due to a lack of funds, was left unmaintained and creaked with every step as he makes his way to his bed. To him, the students who remain in this dormitory after a few years were simply those without any real talent. For that reason, he plans to find a new place as soon as class is over the next day, because experiencing this hell once was more than enough. The next day, Jay Hyun goes for a run and stops after he feels he's done enough for a warm-up, turning back toward the dormitory to get ready. For his first class, all the freshman magician cadets gather in a large hall to meet their assigned instructor. The instructor for basic mana acclamation, Kim Jian, arrives and introduces herself to the class. As she speaks, Jay Hyun frowns, because this instructor is someone he doesn't recognize at all, suggesting this magic academy hides more changes than he anticipated. Even considering his past life as a warrior, he has very few memories of his instructors, so she might have been one of the instructors who quit early. After all, becoming an instructor at Mills was no easy task, and the ones who remained were individuals like Kim Siki. They were the kind of people who were greedy for the crumbs of power that Jian was willing to throw their way. Jian says she is sure that most of them found it odd that their first class was not in a classroom, but in a large facility like this one. As a set of large doors opens behind her, she explains the reason is to test their mana sensitivity directly. The students are left in shock at the sight of what appears to be a massive mana cube, and they hope they aren't being told to go inside. While they complain that this is too difficult for a first class, Jun thinks to himself that this mana cube feels off. It resembled the mana cube he'd encountered previously, though its mana was significantly weaker. Instructor Jian then revealed to the class that what they were standing in is known as a mana room, a structure modeled after the mana cubes typically found at guilds, but designed for cadets like themselves. She elaborated that escaping a true mana cube is nearly impossible, which is precisely why they had prepared this version. The irony, of course, is that our protagonist had already shattered a real mana cube back at his guild. This mana room was segmented into numerous sub-chambers. In the first chamber, the mana density mirrored that of the outside atmosphere, but it grew progressively thicker the deeper they ventured. On average, a first-year cadet at this esteemed magic academy can withstand up to level 3, while a graduating senior might reach their absolute limit around level 7. The objective of this class was simple: to determine the precise level of each cadet's mana sensitivity. With that, Jian instructed the cadets to form a single file line and follow her lead. She also advised them to raise a hand if they experienced any distress during the test, at which point an assistant instructor would escort them out. Shortly thereafter, she stepped into one of the mana chambers, with the cadets trailing closely behind. Once everyone was inside, Instructor Jian observed that none of the students appeared to be struggling with level 1. Confident, she announced their progression to level 2. Upon entering, however, a few of the cadets began gasping for air, requiring the instructors to help them exit. Once they were gone, Jian prompted the remaining students to accompany her to level 3. As they crossed the threshold, nearly half the class immediately raised their hands in surrender. Yet, Jay Hyun, Yu Jung, and Ina remained completely unfazed by the pressure. Instructor Jian then beckoned the survivors to follow her into the 4th level, where a significant number of students signaled their limit. After the struggling cadets departed, she proposed they advance to level 5, prompting yet another wave of students to request their leave. By level 6, several more were escorted out, completely overcome by exhaustion. Yu Jung turned to Jay Hyun, asking if he was finding it difficult to breathe, but he casually replied that he didn't think so. Meanwhile, Ina observed Jay Hyun, noticing he was completely at ease. This sight steeled her resolve to push even harder. Jian scanned the room and realized only 4 cadets were left standing: Jay Hyun, Yu Jung, Ina, and another top student named Lee Soo-hyuk. Unsurprisingly, they were the same cadets who had dominated the freshman hunt. Chairman Jia had specifically instructed her to keep a watchful eye on Jay Hyun and report his progress, but she had no intention of being a mere messenger. She then announced to the remaining cadets that they would be proceeding to level 7. The students outside whispered in disbelief, wondering just who these prodigies were, advancing to a level that the instructor herself had said was reserved for graduates. Upon entering the 7th chamber, Instructor Jian, testing their limits, proposed advancing to the 8th level. She paused, asking if any of them were experiencing any difficulty, but silence was her only answer. Though Yu Jung was clearly beginning to struggle, the onlookers could only stare in awe as the group advanced to the 8th level. As they entered, the remaining cadets felt a sharp, sudden spike in mana pressure, all except for Jay Hyun, of course, who hides his true power so well. From level 8 onwards, the mana concentration began to fluctuate wildly, mimicking the unstable environment inside a real dungeon. Jian knew that even a genius should begin to falter at this stage, and, true to her expectations, both Soo-hyuk and Yu Jung finally raised their hands, signaling their retreat. Ina, meanwhile, had broken into a cold sweat, but when neither she nor Jay Hyun gave any sign of quitting, Instructor Jian was left with no choice but to proceed to the unprecedented level 9. The moment they stepped inside, Ina was overcome with nausea and nearly vomited. Starts to falter, catching Jay Hyun completely off guard. As Jian looks back, she finds herself unable to intervene, remembering a crucial instruction from the chairman: never offer a cadet assistance before they request it, regardless of the kind of predicament they're in. He had explained that for a cadet at this magic academy, danger is merely another form of opportunity. And if that chance is snatched away from them, it would be a truly heartbreaking loss. Jay Hyun rushes to Ina's side, asking if she's okay, and she insists that she is, though her body is trembling uncontrollably. Her vision blurs, unable to clearly make out Jay Hyun's face, and she desperately refuses to lose. All her life, Ina had been told that only the strong survive, and that she would never be able to do anything more than bow her head to a true warrior, even with her natural talent for magic. The words echoed in her memory: the weak have no future, and all she wants at this moment is to finally be acknowledged. But her body betrays her, and she finds herself collapsing as Jay Hyun rushes to support her, and she whispers in defeat that she's lost again. As the assistants escort her away, Jay Hyun is left wondering what she meant by losing. Upon entering level 10, Instructor Jian checks on Jay Hyun, knowing full well that even she will start to feel the pressure from this point forward. After a moment, our hero turns to her with a relaxed smile on his face and casually states that he's also finding it a bit difficult and would like to head out now. Hearing this, Jian readily agrees and asks him to exit with her. As she leads the way, she secretly wonders what he means by trouble, because he hides any sign of strain perfectly. When they finally step outside, Jian announces to the other cadets that they should applaud Jay Hyun for successfully reaching level 10, a feat that puts him on par with a professional raider, someone of B rank or even higher. While she encourages everyone else to work hard and try to close the gap, Suyuk shoots a frowning glance at Jay Hyun, and Ina's expression is one of deep disappointment in herself. A moment later, our boy approaches Ina to see if she's feeling better. She assures him she is and apologizes for causing them to worry. In response, Jay Hyun tells her it's all good, since nothing serious came of it. Yu Jung then chimes in, asking Jay Hyun if he's okay, pointing out how completely unfazed he looked just a moment ago. He confirms that he's fine, then casually tells her to take the towel from around her neck because she looks like a construction worker. As expected, the comment instantly riles Yu Jung up, making her regret ever worrying about him in the first place. While she's in the middle of her tirade, Jay Hyun calmly asks if she's not in any pain either, and she proudly states that the doctors confirm she's perfectly fine, and begins to gloat about how incredibly fit she is. For a moment, Jay Hyun's attention drifts back to Ina. He had initially thought she was just a bit competitive, but now he realizes something else is going on. It feels more like a dangerous compulsion. Fortunately, she wasn't seriously injured this time around, but with that kind of obsessive personality, she could become very difficult to manage later on. Of course, it's not his intention to make Ina dance to his tune, but just like what's happening with Zhang, Hoyun, and Zhang, he has a strong feeling that Ina's future is about to change as well. He figures the same holds true for Yu Jung. As he glances over in her direction, she catches his eye and asks what he's staring at, cheekily asking if she's just that pretty. But Jay Hyun simply asks if she's absolutely certain there's nothing wrong with her.